These men are probably the toughest competitors in Australian motorsport. Top Bikes are the hyperactive rodeo bulls of Australian drag racing. Like a snarling, angry beast, these machines are brute power, and these men are here to bring them to heel. This is one of the most frightening sports in the nation, and if you dare to take a ride on one of these nitro-fueled Top Bikes, they provide a kick like nothing else you've ever experienced. This weekend, the 400 Thunder Series welcomes you to the magnificent Perth Motorplex in Western Australia, where the battle between man and machine continues for these Top Bikes. The fight for two-wheeled supremacy has never been more fierce. This is 400 Thunder. Qualifying session number 1 for the Top Bikes coming your way, and well, we kick it off with two of the absolute heavy hitters of this class, Chris Porter and Chris Matheson. National champions apiece, and big problems to Porter. It looked like that bike tried to lay over, but Matheson, he smoked the tyre hard at the hit of the throttle, let it settle down, gets back into it, a 748, but a big speed, 306 kilometres per hour for him. He'll go provisionally to the number 1 qualifying spot. Let's have a look at the slow-mo. Chris Porter, he actually left very nicely, just a hinted tyre shake, carried the front wheel way out. Let's go on board. You can see it actually got a little bit out of the groove, and when that front wheel touched back down, boom, that was it. It was over, and Chris Matheson was gone.
I think we're carrying the front wheel out a bit, and I don't know whether it's the wind or whether it's just me, but the bike seems to be going a bit left, and I'm getting up to get off it and bring it straight to get back on it again.
On board with Chris Matheson now, that first qualifying session, you can see he was slow out of the gate, smoking the tyre, but man, he came home strong. The bike really moving around on him a lot there, and it just shows how hard these motorcycles are to ride.
It didn't. Went like an old dog.
It sounded fantastic. Yeah, it seems like it's pretty good. And
yeah, motor's good. We just can't get enough clutch out of it to hook up. That's our problem. So just making too much power for the track at the minute. So I've got to get a bigger dartboard.
Greg Durack now on the only turbocharged motorcycle in this field. That's the green bike. Quite fittingly, Kawasaki running the factory colours. He is taking on Tony Wood on the far side of the track. These nitro-powered bikes really popular over here in Perth, and big problems for Wood. But have a look at Greg Durack carrying the front wheel almost all the way to the finish line. The turbocharged combination on that one really coming home strong at the top end of the racetrack. The time pretty impressive for him, a 7:01. That provisionally takes him to the number 1 spot. Very impressive when you consider he's running a combination that today is completely unique to this motorcycle. Looking at Tony Wood on the far side of the racetrack, he had big problems, a lot of smoke out of that bike, didn't actually make it to the finish line under power. Wayne McGuinness now, the Flame motorcycle, looking very stealthy, very nicely presented bike, this one, taking on Les Holden, a guy who's been racing nitro bikes for probably about 2 or 3 years now, is starting to get a hold of the combination that he needs to be competitive in this class. But I tell you what, when you think you know everything about these bikes, that's when they will bite you. They are vicious motorcycles. Anything running nitro is vicious, but particularly when you're on 2 wheels, they're a lot less forgiving. Oh, picking the front wheel up for Les Holden on the far side of the racetrack. Wayne McGuinness, how in the world did he keep that bike upright? It laid over on him nearly to the point where it was going to kick him off. And when you're already doing 200 kilometres per hour at half track, I don't know how it didn't kick him off. Les Holden, good run for him, a 790, 751 from Wayne McGuinness. Keep your eye on the black bike closest to screen. It gets to about half track, the front wheel touches down, and I tell you what, that was good luck and good management from Wayne McGuinness. Right about here, you can see the bike tips over, and he does a great job of recovering that and still keeps it in his lane, stays on the throttle, a 751 as a result.
Yeah, pretty good. It's a bit windy at the top end, sort of blows you around a little bit when you go through the finish line, but hopefully that'll drop off and things will get better.
One thing that always amazes me about these top bike pilots is how calm they are. They're always so calmly spoken. They're still sitting on the bike. They've just run 300 kilometres per hour on 2 wheels, and they're just at the other end and just, oh yeah, this is just the way we do it in this class. Just incredible stuff. Mark Drew, reigning national champion, left of screen. He's taking on Terry Burnett, a guy who's been racing these bikes for a long, long time. A lot of experience on both sides of the track here. And a good, strong run for Mark Drew, straight to the #1 qualifying spot. 6.97 though, not as quick as what we've come to expect from him. Terry Burnett, another good run for him as well, 7.40. Having a look at the replay, Mark Drew, you can see he's got that right leg hanging way, way out because the bike's heading left. He's trying to shift his weight over, trying to get that bike to move. It's back up on that back wheel, and he does a great job of riding it. Just a picture-perfect textbook riding style from Mark Drew.
Yeah, no, I've done that in first gear. It didn't change in the second. I've got gearbox issues. I have to go back and change the gearbox now.
Top bike qualifying results here. Session 1 done, and Mark Drew leading the way. The reigning national champion doing a great job, but Greg Durack right in behind him, only by a hair. Well, that's session 1 done. We've got session 2 and 3 coming your way after the break. Second qualifying session coming your way. Under the lights here in Perth. What a fantastic looking venue this is. It is an exquisite venue for drag racing, and I'll tell you what, under the lights here, although we do have a threat of weather around, that is the key here, and I dare say that we probably will be weather affected at some point over this weekend. Qualifying session number 2 coming your way. We got Terry Burnett taking on Wayne McGuinness. Terry Burnett closest to screen. Wayne McGuinness still relatively a newcomer to Nitro racing, but he's doing a great job on that bike. Look at the flame out of the back of Terry Burnett, but it goes quiet at around about the 3/4 track mark there, and Wayne McGuinness goes around the outside of him, a 7.36. That's a very nice run for Wayne McGuinness, nudging ever so close to that 6-second barrier. Having a look at the replay, it was picture perfect. The first half of the run for Terry Burnett was probably as clean as I've seen that motorcycle leave for a long, long time. Well, I'll tell you what, Wayne McGuinness doing a great job as well. Again, though, that bike laid over on him. He does a great job to keep it upright and gets it across the finish line for a good time.
We went back. We realised that our second stage and our clutch wasn't activating. Solved that problem, and we put a bit more fuel in it because we got killer air tonight. It is awesome air. We didn't put enough fuel in. We can put more fuel in and more load, and let's see how we go in Q3.
Yeah, I noticed that obviously you want to run on methanol real well, sign of the air being so good.
Oh, it was running away. It was revving. It's revving so fast that, you know, I just had to flick it straight over to nitro, and yeah, so it's killer air. We live for days like this.
Next pair up, it is National Championships apiece on both sides of the racetrack here. Chris Porter on the far side and Chris Matheson, the 3-time national champion on the Nitro Voodoo bike. This is going to be a good one. Oh, hang on. Chris Porter's left before the tree's activated here. That is going to void what looks to be a pretty competitive run for Chris Porter. That's not good news for him or his championship hopes. Chris Matheson, on the other hand, he's got, well, it's a competitive run, a 7.51, but it's nowhere near that bike's potential. Having a look at it, you can see it was just a case of way too much horsepower, way too soon. Up in tyre smoke, he has to roll out of the throttle, get back into it, and it still blazes the tyres, and it still manages to go 317 kilometres per hour at the top end of the racetrack. It was a big, clean flame. The engine's performing flawlessly. It's just a clutch package that they've got to get sorted out in that bike, but once they do, it's going to be tough. Now, you see the onboard there for Chris Porter. Never even saw the orange lights come on. The red light came on. That run is disqualified. No time for him. Next up, we've got Ben Stevens on the far side of the racetrack taking on Les Holden on the near side. And have a look at Les Holden carrying that front wheel a long way out. That's what you like to see with these bikes, but Oh, Les Holden, a 7.78. I thought it looked a bit quicker than that. And Ben Stevens there just looks like he's removing the kill switch out of these motorcycles. Let's have a look at the replay. And Les Holden, this bike was picture perfect right from the get-go, carrying the front wheel, and that is what you like to see as far as the rate transfer goes. But he made a tiny little error. The bike tried to lay over on him there, did a good job of recovering. But either way, it's not a quick run, but it's a good run that gets him into the field. This is how they're shaping up after session 2 in qualifying. Mark Drew still leading the way, but we didn't see him come out for that second qualifying session. Maybe some work to do between rounds for him. One man who's still got plenty of room to improve is Chris Matheson, who's currently in the number 5 spot.
Basically, it's a 1500cc, 4-cylinder motor. It's a double overhead cam, 2 valve per cylinder, and it's 1500cc. It's making about 1800 horsepower. At the tyre, which is equivalent to about 3 supercars, to bring it into perspective. We run a chute as per the regs, but to be honest, I very, very rarely pop it. We've been as quick as 241 mile an hour at Willowbank, just over 6 seconds, which is almost 400 kilometres, and we've stopped with the brakes. So I don't want to get in a habit of relying on the chute, because the time you rely on them, they don't come out, you run out of time to stop. It gets pretty exciting down the other end trying to pull it up. This is just on 500 kilos. I'm 120, so 620 kilos you're trying to stop in about 400 metres after doing almost 400k. Once we get to half track, we've been as quick as 210 mile an hour to half track, in less than 3 seconds, and the second half of the track we've put on 70 mile an hour, or well over 100 kilometres in the back half. So they get up and go, and obviously with these things, the front wheel's in the air the whole run, so you don't actually steer. You actually steer with your feet by loading the foot pegs up. If you want to go right, you load the left peg. If you want to go left, the opposite peg. So they're weird. I've ridden bikes all my life, but to get on these, you've got to throw that in the bin, because you can't lean them. If you lean them, the tyre loses.
It's a completely different principle, isn't it, to what you learn on the riding a normal street bike.
And they pretty much, you've really got to do the run before you do it in your head, because once we get going, we do a football field a second. So if you put that into your head, how much distance you're travelling, if you're sort of out of shape and you think, oh, I better go left or better go right, well, you've gone 3 football fields. It's too late.
Time now for the third qualifying session, which has been moved from last night. We did have some weather come through and unfortunately wash out that final round of qualifying, but we have moved it to the very start of race day. So we've got Wayne McGuinness on the start line here, looking to improve on his previous best. And again, that bike just laying over ever so slightly, hanging way off the bike, trying to get that thing sorted. 7.50 for him. That's a solid run. He doesn't improve, though, over his previous best. Next pair up. Looks like Ben Stevens on the far side of the racetrack. Good to see head and neck supports really starting to make their way into motorcycle racing as well. They've been around car racing for a long time, but good to see the bike guys starting to take advantage of that technology as well. He's taking on former national champ Chris Porter, closest to camera. Oh, again, big problems for Porter. That bike is just not behaving itself this weekend. Ben Stevens, 7.67, definitely a step in the right direction. Drops the chute at the other end, obviously helps him slow that motorcycle and puts a lot less reliance on the brakes, because remember, these bikes, very, very difficult to pull up at the top end of the racetrack. There's a lot of weight, a lot of moving mass, and looking at the super slow-mo for Chris Porter, it looked like it left pretty cleanly, but again, still carrying the front wheel a long, long way down track. There is still a little bit of wind around this morning. Maybe that's affecting these bikes, but Chris Porter certainly lacking some confidence heading into the first round.
I used to ride freestyle motocross, and I had a big accident, ended up losing a leg and smashing a heap of bones, so I thought I'd try and give that away and take up something different. Just after I lost my leg, this come up for sale. And I thought, oh yeah, might as well try and snatch that up. And I actually had a joke with one of my crew members about it. And he thought I was pulling his leg. No pun intended. Yeah, so one thing led to another. We end up getting this. We've only done, I think, 6 meetings or 7 meetings so far, something like that with it. So it's just over a minute of ride time. You got to do some things in life, don't you? You got to get out. You can't let things hold you back. That's one of the main reasons why I sort of wanted to get into this. It's it is a little bit safer than freestyle, I think. But yeah, as soon as I can't do that, I've got to have my adrenaline fixed somehow.
Greg Jurek now going on a solo pass, looking to improve on that 7.0 that currently has him in the number 2 qualifying spot. Oh, that sounded ugly, and that's why. The chain looks like it has come off that bike, and once the chain comes off, you don't have any drive on these bikes, and that's going to make things very, very difficult to go quicker than that 7.0. You can see it is quite a beefy chain that they run on these bikes, so to break that, it is quite a task. But Mark Drew now, solo pass for him to round out this final qualifying session. We know he's had his problems. He skipped the second qualifying session, and it looks like he's going to have his own problems here. The foot collects the timing cone, and I tell you, that will hurt, but it will also void this run for Mark Drew. So he doesn't improve anyway. It was only a 7.85. It looked like he rolled out of the throttle well and truly before the finish line to try and keep that off the centre line, but he'll have a pretty sore foot after that one.
Spun off the line, which kicked it sideways a bit, and once with these tyres here, whatever way they're going, sort of thing, that's the way you're going, so it was pretty hard to pull it back straight. For the next one, we'll take a little bit off the make the hitter as it takes off a little bit softer and bring a bit more power in down the track.
These are your eliminations matchups. Ben Stevens taking on Wayne McGuinness in the first matchup. Les Holden and Greg Jurek to do battle. Chris Matheson taking on Terry Burnett, and Chris Porter to take on Mark Drew. Don't go anywhere. We've got all the elimination action coming up on the other side of this break. Top bike, one of the most colourful classes that we have in the 400 Thunder series, and well, unfortunately for the Perth locals, it looks like there's going to be 2 Perth locals matching up against each other here. So only one will go through to the semi-final, but it will either be Benny Stevens, right of screen, or Wayne McGuinness, a man who's been running some good times this weekend, but I think has just been struggling with the handling on this motorcycle ever so slightly. It has had a tendency to lay over on him just a little bit, just past half track, so hopefully he's got those problems sorted and he won't have a repeat here. First round of racing, we're set for a start. Just really bucking around for Wayne McGuinness, and Benny Stevens, he's got his hands full on his side of the racetrack as well. Looks like he gets it across the line and takes the win. Good run for Ben Stevens, an 8.22. It wasn't quick, but I tell you what, it was spectacular. Let's have a look at the replay here. Wayne McGuinness, the bike just up and down, and it looks like it might have even been a few clutch problems there. In fact, I think it may be the chain hanging just below that bike, so that would explain why it came down so violently. But Ben Stevens, he had his hands full in a big way on that bike, kept it in his lane, and he'll take the win.
Well done, mate.
Cheers, thanks for that. It was a bit of a fun sort of ride. The bike sort of got a little bit out of shape. Felt like the tyre had a little bit of tyre shake there. Started to go a little bit towards the wall, I felt, so I sort of rode it and had to pedal a little bit. You can't really pedal these things, as you know, so yeah, just gave it our best shot.
Oh, that unmistakable scream of the multi-cylinder supercharged nitro motorcycle. That's Chris Matheson, and he will be taking on Terry Burnett on this side of the racetrack. 2 very, very different styles of bike. As you can see, we've got the V-twin, the Nitro Harley on this side, up against the 4-cylinder supercharged bike on the far side. Oh, that's a beautiful looking run. A beautiful looking run for Chris Matheson. And how about that low ET of the weekend? Quickest time we've seen is 6:47 at just a tick over 333 kilometres per hour. That is the kind of performance that we've expected out of Chris Matheson. We haven't seen it for quite some time, but he takes the round win and puts an exclamation point on it with that 6:47. Terry Burnett, it was a solid run up until half track. You can see the bike really moving around underneath him, but he never really had a chance. If this bike runs to its potential, Chris Matheson will win 99.9% of his races.
Chris Matheson, who's fresh off a win from his first round with a lazy 47.
Yeah, first time we've been able to hook up in 5 passes, so it's taken us 5 runs to be able to get the power to the ground. We set it up super soft. We only ran 80-odd% nitro. I've never ever run that low in my life. And we took about 11 degrees out of the ignition, so it was like an old postman's bike off the line.
The beauty of Top Bike is all the different combinations that you see. I mean, we had a nitrous-powered bike at the first round of the championship in Sydney. We've got a turbocharged bike here. We've got the supercharged multi-cylinder bike of Chris Matheson. And, of course, the big, thumping V-twin Nitro Harleys. They are something else, and there's a lot of them. But I'll tell you what, Greg Durack is not going to be a pushover here for Les Holden. Oh, Holden out in front, but he's got his own problems. We've got a good race on our hands right now. And Durack gets it by the skin of his teeth. A 766 beats a 777 from Les Holden. I tell you what, the back and forward in this race is incredible. Holden got out in front. We expect that from the turbo bike, to be a little bit slower on the front half of the racetrack. But man, oh man, did Greg Durack come home strong at the other end. He's even behind at half track. Holden's in front. He's trying to hang on, but he can't quite do it.
I believe the winning margin, Greg, was
0.086 of a second. So yeah, I was pretty lucky to get that one.
Yeah,
just managed to round you up in the end. Yeah.
Massive top end charge,
yeah.
And it paid off.
Yeah, it did. Yeah, well, spun the tyre for a second, 3 seconds out, so he was just disappearing in the distance. I thought it was all over, but yeah, we managed to gather him up and just pip him at the lights.
Well, if you're a Harley fan, if you're a V-twin fan, this is the race for you. 2 of the quickest Nitro Harleys that we have in this country doing battle on the Perth racetrack. Mark Drew, closest to camera, taking on Chris Porter, the former national champion. So we've got a former and reigning national champion on the start line. This promises to be a great battle. However, Chris Porter, he is not confident coming into this race. He's had his struggles throughout qualifying, and he has to have a question mark in his mind coming into this race. Wow! Wow, Chris Porter, I don't know how he managed to keep that bike upright. Man, oh man, Mark Drew, 656, he takes the win. It looks like he's going to struggle to get that thing stopped to the other end of the racetrack. He's definitely got a battle on his hands. But man, oh man, Chris Porter, this bike carried the front wheel a long, long way. We've seen this all weekend long. But when it touched down, this is the point. It touches down and the bike lays over. Look at the angle on the front wheel. And he actually does give the wall ever so slight a kiss. Man, oh man, Chris Porter, he had his hands full there, and it was experience that got him out of that. Not good luck, it was experience. There's the head-on shot, and you can see just how perilous a situation it was for Chris Porter. Man.
That was pretty unfortunate. I mean, that bike came out of the hole. It was on a mission. It looked great, sounded great. It was twisted up. You were riding it like a bull.
Yeah, well, we had Drew to 330 feet, you know what I mean, which was, I was on a mission. And she started going towards the wall, and I thought, if I lean off a little bit, I might be able to walk it away. When I leaned it off a little bit, and the front wheel come down, because I was leaning off to the side, she just folded under, man, and it was all tagged the wall and over by then.
Well, it was all happening for Chris Porter in the left lane, but in the right lane, Mark Drew was streaking his way to yet another round win.
First round run, I think you'd have to be pretty happy with.
Yeah, no, that was pretty good. We got a 652. We've got a bit of data to work from now, so I'll get it going a bit quicker in the next one.
Yeah, and obviously given the track conditions and the rain we've had, the track obviously seems to be holding 40s and 50s now.
Yeah, no, the track's all right. You know, I think we'll go quicker than that, I reckon.
Your semi-finals for top bike will be Greg Durack and Benny Stevens to do battle in the first, and the second semi-final will see Mark Drew taking on Chris Matheson. Well, as you can see, the rains have come and basically washed out the remainder of the event here in Perth. What's going to happen is we are going to be racing the remainder of the elimination runs that we've got left to do, so the 2 semi-finals and the final at the Western Nationals in February. You'll see all the action right here in the weeks to come.